Hey everybody, Jonathan Rayo here with Simplified Guitar, and today I want to help you learn your first song in just 3 days. I know that one of the most frustrating things for people is when you just get started on the guitar and you play for weeks and weeks, maybe even months, and you still can't play through your first song without stumbling all over the place. Well, today we're going to go over everything you need to make it nice and simple, so simple that you can literally do it in 3 days. We're going to go over the song, the chords, how to practice, what to practice, and how to have persistence in your practice as well. So let's get started. Now, if you want to learn your first song in 3 days, you're going to need to practice. And I'm going to challenge you right now to commit 1 hour a day just for the next 3 days. Now, you might be thinking an hour a day, goodness, that's a lot. But I just want you to commit to that just for 3 days. After the 3 days, you can reevaluate and decide if you want to keep practicing that much, or you want to reduce it, or if you want to practice more. But for now, just for the next 3 days, I want you to commit to practicing 1 hour a day. Now, the other thing that's important is that you need to be intentional about your practice. You can't just say, well, I'll practice when I have time, or I'll practice, whenever there's not anything going on. You cannot do that. Playing the guitar is a hobby, and everything else is going to take priority if you don't prioritize your practice time. So I would suggest that right now you pick out that hour, whether it's going to be in the morning before work or before you start your day, or maybe it's going to be in the evening before you go to bed. Pick out that time that you're going to do this practice. And maybe it's 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. But you need to find that time and put it in your calendar. And the other thing that is very important, maybe even more important, is letting other people know that you're doing this. So, if you have a family, if you're married, if you have a spouse, you need to let them know what your intentions are. That I'm trying to learn my first song, and for the next 3 days I'm going to be committing an hour of practice. So by letting other people know, everybody understands and has the same expectations. You don't have that burden on your shoulders of worrying about what other people are going to think. Just let everybody know what your intentions are. Also, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys who are taking on this 3-day challenge. All right, now let's go ahead and get into what we're going to practice. All right, so let's talk about what to practice. What song are we going to play? What chords do we need to play? And how are we going to strum? Now, I've picked out 3 songs for you, and I want you to pick one of these 3 songs for you to learn how to play in the next 3 days. Now, I've handpicked these songs because they are super easy to play. They have a nice and simple melody, and each one of them use the same 2 chords. So it doesn't matter which one of the 3 that you pick. Any one of them that you pick, we're going to use the same 2 chords and the same strumming. So the songs for you to choose from are Mary Had a Little Lamb, Down in the Valley, and Oh Christmas Tree. So just pick whichever one of those is the most interesting for you. So now let's go over the chords. Each one of these 3 songs uses 2 chords, the E chord and the B7 chord. And there's a reason I chose these songs and these chords, because the E and B7 chords are very, very easy to transition between. They have a very similar shape to one another, so there's very little hand movement when you're switching between these 2 chords. So the transitions between chords is one of the biggest problems for beginners, to get your hands used to making those big switches between one chord to the next. So these 2 chords are not only easy to play, but they are very easy to transition between, which is going to be a huge plus. So first, let's look at the E major chord. And the E major chord is going to look like this. We're going to have our first finger on the 1st fret of the G string, and then our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. And that is your E major chord. And you want to strum, when you're strumming, you want to strum all 6 strings for this chord. That's not the case for all chords out there, and that's a common mistake for people as well. And we'll get to that when we get to the B7 chord in just a second. But for this chord, the E major chord, we're going to strum all 6 strings. Now I want to show you the B7 chord, and I'm going to stay on this E and switch to the B7 so you can see how easy of a transition this is. So from the E major, all I'm going to do is take my 1st finger and I'm going to move it up from the G string to the D string, still on the 1st fret, and I'm going to take my 3rd finger That's now on the D string, and I'm going to move it down to the G string 2nd fret. So I'm just taking these two fingers, my 1st and 3rd, and I'm switching them. And that's my B7. So I'm going from E to B7, and then back to E. Okay? Now one thing that's important for the B7 chord is that when you're strumming it, you do not want to strum the low E string. Okay? This is going to be very important because starting your strumming on this A string, with my 2nd finger down on the 2nd fret of the A string, that's my B note. So that is going to be the root note of the B chord. So that has to be the first string that you hit. If instead you were to hit the E string, it's going to be a very muddy chord, and it's going to be a little confusing for the listener to differentiate between the E and the B if you don't play that B note as your root note. And for that B minor 7, another thing you can do is take your thumb and touch the E string with your thumb just to mute it so it doesn't resonate while you strum. And that's going to allow you not to really have to worry about accidentally hitting that low E string when you're playing the B7 chord. So here we have the two chords. I'll play them together. E, B7, and then back to E. So those are the only two chords that you need to learn for any one of these 3 songs that you pick. Now for strumming, we're going to do something super simple, and we're going to do a whole note pattern, which means that we're just going to strum once for each measure. And you don't need to know the terms and all of this stuff. I'm going to play through all 3 of these songs in just a second, and I'm going to have a little animated diagram for you that you can follow along with. So don't worry about knowing the terminology and all of that stuff right now. Also, for those of you who are patrons, you can download the chord charts for these 3 songs, and you'll see the chord on top of the word that you should be strumming. So every time that you should strum down, you're going to see a chord on top of the word that's being sung. So for strumming for these 3 songs, all you need to worry about is strumming down. So just to review about what to practice, you're going to pick out a song, one of the 3. You're going to learn the 2 chords, E and B7. And you're going to do a simple strum pattern, which is just strumming down once for every measure. Okay, so now that you know what to practice, let's talk about how to practice. This is a very important step because you may know what to practice, but how are you supposed to practice the most effectively? You want to get the most use out of the time that you put into your practice sessions, so knowing how to practice effectively is going to be big. I'm going to be going over 4 different practice techniques, and when you use all 4 of these in combination, it's really going to make your practice time very effective. So the first technique is the clean chords practice. And the whole point of this practice is just to focus on getting clean sounding chords. You're not worried about playing songs right now. You're not worried about playing strum patterns. All you're worried about is getting a clean sounding chord. So let's take the E chord for example. You're going to get your hand on the E chord, and then you're going to strum through each string one at a time, not all together. You're going to go one at a time, and you're going to make sure that each string is ringing out clearly, and you don't have any muted or chattering strings. When you get all 6 strings sounding clear, you can give it one nice full strum. Now, what happens if you do get a muted or a chattering string? If you do get that happen, let's say you get something like this happen, what you need to do is stop and remember the 3 rules. And the 3 rules are to press with the tip of your finger, to arch your finger, and to press on the sweet spot of the fret. Now, I'm going to go over each one of those real quick. So we're going to press with the tip of the finger. Now, let's say I'm pressing down here with my 2nd finger. So if I press like this is going to be a problem. I don't want to press with the pad of my finger right here. I want to press with the tip of my finger, because the tip of your finger is going to be harder than the pad. And it's going to be a lot harder for you to press down with the pad of your finger. You have to press really hard, and it's going to hurt really bad. To get a clean sounding string. So press with the tip of your finger. And number 2, arch your finger, kind of goes along with that. Especially for chords, let's say like for the E chord, This first finger is pressing down on the first fret of the G string. If I'm not arching my finger, if I'm pressing with the tip, let's say, but I'm not arching my finger, then the B string is going to be muted because my first finger is laying on it. It's touching it. So I need to arch that finger so that it's not muting the strings behind it. And then pressing on the sweet spot of the fret, that's going to be directly behind the metal bar, this metal fret right here. So if I need to press on the second fret, let's say, I'm not going to press down here, because if I press down here, I can do it and I can get a clean chord, but I really have to press hard to do it. If I press up here on the fret, closer to that metal bar, I don't have to put much pressure at all to get a nice clean sound. So as much as you can, you want to try to press on that sweet spot of the fret. Now that's not always going to be possible. If you have a finger crowding issue, then you can't always press on the sweet spot of the fret. For instance, like the E major chord. This second finger on the second fret of the A string, I have that finger there and I have the third finger also on the second fret of the D string. So they're right next to each other. I can't really put both of those fingers on the sweet spot of the fret because they're too close together. So my second finger is going to be about halfway on that second fret of the A string. But again, you just want to keep that in mind and try to get as close to the sweet spot of the fret as you can. So as you're going through the clean chords practice, if you come across a note that's muted or chattering, stop there, fix that string, and then go back and start over. The reason you want to go back and start over after you fix a string is because when you move your hand to try to fix that one string, you may have messed up one of the other strings. So you need to go back from the beginning and pick through each one of the strings individually and make sure all 6 of them are nice and clear before you move on to the next chord. Okay, the second practice technique is the muscle memory practice. And after the clean chords practice, this one's going to be a relief, because you don't have to press down on any strings when you're doing the muscle memory practice. This is just to help the muscles in your hand to memorize the positions of the chords. You do not need to be pressing down on the strings for this practice. So all you're going to do is you're going to place your fingers on the string where they go for the different chords. So like for the E chord and for the B7 chord, I'm just going to kind of hover over the string. I'm touching them, but I'm not pressing down. So especially if you're just starting out, you may only be able to do the clean chords practice for so long before your fingers feel like they're going to fall off. So the muscle memory practice is going to be a nice relief for you, but it's still going to allow you to practice the chords and to get your fingers used to the position and to the transitions between the chords. So what you want to do for this practice is watch the video tutorial of me playing whatever song it is that you are wanting to learn. And while watching that video, you're going to just play the chord. You're going to hold it in place without pressing down on the strings. And anytime I switch chords, you're going to switch your chord. And all you're doing right now is focusing on switching from one chord to the next in time with the song. All right, the third practice technique is the strumming practice. And this practice is solely about strumming. You're not going to be playing any chords. In fact, you can just mute your strings. You can just take your hand and place it across the fretboard so that none of the strings are going to resonate, and you're only going to be focused on strumming with your right hand. So this is going to give you another chance to give these fingers a break, because that's going to be the hardest part if you're just starting out on guitar, is these fingers are going to be sore. So this is another way to practice without needing to stress out this hand too much. So you can just lay your hand across the fretboard, let the strings stay muted, and we're just going to be practicing strumming. So again, you want to play the video of me playing through the song that you want to learn, and anytime that I strum, you are going to also strum. Even though the strings are muted, that's fine. You want to get yourself to memorize the pattern and the timing of when you're supposed to be strumming to the song that you're playing. And the fourth technique is the all-together practice. And this is when we're going to put the chords together with the strumming, but you also want to play the video. So play the video of me playing through the song, and you're going to play with me. So right now you don't need to sing because that's just another level of complexity. So just give yourself a little break there. Don't worry about singing. Just play the chord and the strum pattern with the video. So this is the next level of playing. You want to make sure you have the clean chords good. You want to make sure you have the transitions nice and good with the muscle memory practice. You want to make sure you have that strum pattern when you're supposed to strum together, because now when you're putting all of that together, it's going to be a lot for your brain to think about if you haven't gone over all of the other stuff first. So play the video of me playing the song and play the chords and the strum pattern. Pay attention to the transitions when I'm switching and when you're supposed to be strumming. Now, I've put together a practice guide for you, and this practice guide is going to tell you which one of these practice techniques to use each day, each minute. I break down every day for the whole hour of that day that you should be practicing, and I tell you exactly which one of these practice techniques to use and for how long that you should be practicing each one of those techniques. I break down the next 3 days of your practice for you, minute by minute. So if you'd like to get that worksheet, just click on the Patreon link below to become one of my patrons and you can get access to that. Now, don't forget that there are chapter markers in the timeline of this video, so you can skip to any section that you need, including the play along for the song that you are wanting to learn. So you may need to go back to that particular song when I play through the song and re-watch that part when you're doing these practice sessions. Okay, so now I'm going to play through each one of those 3 songs for you.
Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, Mary went, Mary went. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. It followed her to school one day, school one day, school one day. It followed her to school one day, which was against the rules. It made the children laugh and play, laugh and play, laugh and play. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school. Why does the lamb love Mary so? Mary so, Mary so. Why does the lamb love Mary so? The eager children cry. Why Mary loves the lamb, you know, lamb, you know, lamb, you know. Why Mary loves the lamb, you know. The teacher did reply. Down in the valley, valley so low, late in the evening, hear the wind blow, hear the wind blow, love, hear the wind blow. Late in the evening, hear the wind blow. If you don't love me please. Go right on by me, give my heart ease, give my heart ease, love, give my heart ease. Go right on by me, give my heart ease. Write me a letter, send it by mail, send it in care of the Birmingham jail, Birmingham jailer, Birmingham jail. Send it in care of the Birmingham jail. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. They're green when summer days are bright, they're green when winter snow is white. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. How often you give us delight in brightly shining Christmas light. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. That hope and love will ever be the way to joy and peace for me. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches.
All right, now the last and maybe most important step in order to find success in playing your first song is persistence. And this is maybe the most overlooked topic. It's great to know what to practice and how to practice. Those are going to be huge in helping you. But if you don't have persistence, you're never going to push through when things get tough and when your fingers are hurting and all of that stuff. So I'm going to talk to you about the 4 P's of persistence. And if you implement these 4 things, it's going to be huge in helping you to stick to your practice time all the way through until you can actually play your first song and beyond. So the first P is purpose. What is your purpose in learning this song? Or what is your purpose in learning the guitar in general? Now you don't want this to be vague like I want to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb. You want it to be, you want to put a little bit of thought into what your purpose is. So maybe it's I want to play this certain song that my grandfather used to sing to me when I was a kid, and I want to be able to play this for my grandkids. You know, that is a purpose. So you want to give it a little bit more thought behind why you're learning the guitar. Make it something meaningful and personal to you. I'm sure there's something there. You just have to dig a little deeper and write it down. Make sure you say it out loud, put it on paper, and that's going to be huge in helping you to push forward even when things are getting tough or when other things feel like they're taking over the priority of playing the guitar. Having your purpose behind why you're playing is going to be big. The second P is plan. What is your plan for learning how to play the guitar? And that's pretty much everything that we just went over with what you're going to practice, what song, what chords, How are you going to practice? All of that is part of your plan. Also, when are you going to practice, which we talked about earlier as well. So you want to have all of that stuff not only figured out and talked about, but written down. Write all these things down because that's going to help you to remember them. The third P is positive thoughts. Now, I know this sounds a little Oprah-ish, but having positive thoughts is going to be huge in helping you not to give up because you might not even realize it, but sometimes when you're playing it, you'll have those negative thoughts come in, like, oh, I could never do this. Oh, I'm too old. Oh, my fingers are too small or they're too big. Or, you'll have all these thoughts that come in. I get so many emails about these things. Oh, my fingers are too big. I can't do this. Or I don't have enough time. Or all of these excuses and negative thoughts start coming in without you even noticing that it's there. So it's very important to replace those with some positive thoughts. That's going to be also very important for you to not let those negative thoughts take over and make you just lose enthusiasm and lose your motivation. And the fourth P is people, involving other people in your guitar learning journey. So maybe this is a family member, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a community of other learners, but getting other people involved, and that doesn't mean that they have to play with you, that just means that other people know that you're learning the guitar. Even just that is going to give you some social accountability, that other people know that I'm trying to learn, and it's going to add another level of motivation to keep you consistent with your practice because you know other people now are expecting you to be learning the guitar. So even just something as small as posting in the comments that, hey, I'm taking on this challenge and I'm gonna learn my first song in 3 days, even that is going to give you just a little bit of a boost of social accountability. So if you decide to take on learning your first song in 3 days and you want some extra support, you can become my patron. And when you do, you are going to get the chord charts for the songs that we went over today, a persistence worksheet, which allows you to write all those things down, which is very important to write them down. So there's positive thoughts on there. There's a whole bunch of other things that's going to help you in that worksheet to write everything down and have everything on paper. As a patron, you can also post your video recording of you playing your first song after the 3 days. You can post that video to me and the other patrons on my Patreon page. And that's going to give you that extra boost of social accountability that you know, okay, on day 3, I'm going to be posting my video recording of this song that I'm trying to learn. Also, as a patron, you're going to get my practice guide worksheet, which is going to break down for you day by day, minute by minute, exactly what to practice for the next 3 days. That's going to take out all the guesswork for you, and you're just going to have to follow that worksheet for the next 3 days. All right, I wish you all the best in learning your first song, and I will see you in the next lesson. Take care.